John, it's a joy to talk to you. Thank you so much for the time.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
do not disturb, not to, put too fine a point on it, really is a trip. It is an absolutely wild piece. A lot of fun, and very dark. I was wondering from you, where did this story come from? How did it originate?
Well, I've always sort of said that in 2012 or 2013, I can't remember. I was sitting at the Canadian Film Center in some type of session, and I was scribbling and not paying attention, and I wrote down honeymoon couple develops cannibal sex fetish, and that idea sort of stuck with me for a bit, and I started working on a story, a general idea about that concept, and then as I wrote a couple drafts, and I wrote a pretty cheesy sort of tropey version of that. And then I realized there was a sort of a connection between um, the way in a bad relationship we eat each other alive emotionally. I could use that and represent it through cannibalism, and sort of build a platform for myself to sort of exercise my ex relationships and talk about like how stupid we are when we're in love with the wrong person.
Well, I mean, this was very similar to my own honeymoon, and no, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
No,
this is
no,
why I have no heart.
that's right, that's right. No, honestly, I mean, first of all, the idea of, a cannibalism, love triangle or sex romp or whatever it was you said is absolutely on brand with this film because it's absolutely nuts. But it's so rooted in their relationship. And I think that's fascinating that you just made a point of that they sort of are eating each other alive because this is an absolutely toxic relationship between the two of these two characters for both of them.
Yeah, even before the sort of blood starts, they're tearing each other to pieces nonstop,
Yes.
essentially.
So with that being said, I was wondering, what in your mind, I mean, wonderful performances from your leads, but what
Mm.
in your mind is a real problem in their relationship?
Well, I think they want different things, and one clearly knows what they want, and one has no clue what he wants. And also, I mean, that was a big part of casting Kim. I mean, aside from the fact that we were totally on the same page and got along from the second we met, and that she's like a fabulous actress. I wanted to make sure I cast I wanted to make sure I didn't cast an actress who was in their 20s. I wanted someone who could bring something to the character that I think women go through. Not all women, but women who are choosing to have children reach 38 and decide, hey, like clock's ticking, and physically the clock is ticking, and they have to make a decision. And if those women have been with the wrong man for the last 15 years, who suddenly now wants out or doesn't want children, they've got a pretty drastic and forced choice to make. And so, it put a lot of stakes on her. And it helped me build her own tension that way. Because I think, most of the audience will understand that pressure she's under.
Absolutely. As bizarre and as wild as the film gets, the conversations they're having, especially of course at the beginning of the film,
Yeah.
feel very natural. They feel very real. And at one point, as they're arguing, forgive me the character's name, the woman, um,
Chloe.
Chloe's character, looks at her husband and says, I've been waiting for you. I just want us to grow up. And I was wondering, what do you think that means? What does it mean I mean, like you said, you've got this couple.
Well,
They've settled in. They're
I've
married.
avoided growing up my whole life, so I don't know if I'm the right person to ask. No, I mean, it's more of terms of like that slide in the relationship in terms of he still is like he doesn't want to progress, he doesn't want to grow, he still wants to stay the same couple that they were in their 20s, and he still wants to party. And I think one of the funnest things that Kim added, well, she added a lot, but I mean, one of the simpler funny things that came out of nowhere was that shot when she comes up from the tub and she's sort of in her own world, and then she notices the toilet seat's up and just slams it down. And that was just on the day, it was a spur of the moment improv thing, but it was like it really sort of reminds you of like, oh, she's chill, she's happy, and then oh fuck, this guy is back in her life. And then she goes out and he's like jumping and doing push-ups and shoves more peyote in her mouth, and it starts all over again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, starts all over again is a great way to
Well, that's
describe it.
I because the movie plays out in 5 sequences, I think it is, but it plays out. It's repetitive and the same. It doesn't follow sort of a normal 3 act structure. It plays out. Well, I wanted to emulate an abused relationship, so the same series of things sort of happen where
Mm,
they enter the room, they have an argument, that escalates every time, and then the consequences of said argument amplify each time. But it's sort of indicative of abusive relationships where you're always being abused, but then you're saying to yourself, "Oh, it'll get better next time," and it never does get better the next time. And you sort of figure out ways to counter what just happened, but then something worse happens, and that was the idea there. This cycle.
yeah, absolutely. It's cyclical is the word I was going to say because the film just keeps going back. And then there's this little hope of, oh, maybe things have changed, and nope, and they're worse. Have they
No,
think they changed? And nope.
it never gets better for them.
I think that's a safe thing to say as the film unfolds. But one of the things I thought was so interesting about these characters, and this I actually thought was quite a fascinating moment in the film, where Chloe is talking. I believe it's her, and she makes a comment about how, oh no, it's the husband. Says that they say this stuff brings out your true self.
Hmm.
This is what we are.
Is this
And-
what? Yeah, it's Jack who says, "Is that what we are?" Because he's sort of regretting everything and sort of because now I think he's facing consequences, right? Like you can run from certain things, but a dead body under your bed, you can't really run from that. Or so he's sort of like, I think for the first time realizing that there's consequences to his actions, and he's trying to justify it in his head, I think, and then he's sort of appalled by I mean, sort of like reveals him to be the child he is, to himself, because we all saw how he acts almost like a toddler throughout the entire. He shoves whatever he can in his mouth. He's just on. I mean, toddlers don't go for sex, but they're impulsive in terms of what they want. They don't really think of consequences. And that's sort of how he behaves. I mean, even as they're getting stoned, I think the first time he's even talking like a child, as though she's reprimanding him for the sun setting. And he takes that quite personally. So, that for me, that relationship was that. And so that's sort of Jack realizing that he might have gone too far, but by that point she's in, and she's done, and she says, I think she has a line there where she's like, "I've wasted so much of my life on you." So she's not
yes.
giving up. She's just like, "No, this is going to work. No matter what happens, this is working. You're going to snap into place, and I haven't wasted my life yet." So
Well, and this is a interesting thing about these characters is it does sort of feel like with each cycle, if you will, you're pulling back another layer on each of them to get to that core self. Because Chloe's transformation by the end too feels like she's unleashed a part of herself that she's been holding back because of all the frustration and the anger that's been building across the whole
yeah,
platform
well, for decades.
for decade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a decade's worth of frustrations later. I mean, and it's kind of funny. I mean, just on a purely kind of carnal level, there's only one time that she climaxes throughout the whole film, and it's as she's eating him alive, basically. So it's kind of fun that way. And then the fun note on that scene is, at the Popcorn Frights premiere, the audience was really kind of like gasping at that moment. And then there's a moment where the music just chills down and there's some silence. And I don't know who it was, but some guy in the audience, it's complete silence. And this guy was like, "What the fuck?" Like super loud, super shocked. And it's a pretty good movie to watch with the crowd, because you get a lot of audience members yelling at the screen, especially during the salsa scene where he slipped the peyote in the salsa. They're always just cringing. There's a lot of tension, which is kind of what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I mean, you've shown it to audiences. They've seen it on the screen. What is it that you're hoping people take away from Do Not Disturb?
um, well, I mean, people can take what they want to take. I don't want to preach at
Sure.
anyone, but I think it's always good to reflect on our actions, and always good to reflect on our relationships. And I do know that it's been kind of, I don't know about rewarding, but it's been interesting to have a few sort of men in their 20s tell me that they couldn't watch this movie with their fiancés or girlfriends because it hits too close to home, which is kind of fun. And then the amount of women who I pitched this to as we were filming, who kind of cheered when I explained the plot. So there seems to be a common desire to have their husbands be murdered. I don't know if it's playful, but it's pretty much a consensus on that one.
It's cathartic.
It's worrying me after the dozens of women all being like, "Yeah, he probably deserved it." I'm like, okay, I'm hitting some kind of nerve here.
That's both wonderful and terrifying at the same time. Yeah. I will. Thank you.
Yeah, it was funny because I can't remember what reviewer it was, but someone wrote that this film does for heterosexual relationships and drugs what Jaws did for water. And I thought that kind of put it together nicely.
That's such good clarity, and actually a great description of what the film wants to do. Because like I said, the root, although it delves into the wildness and the horror and all that stuff is there, it's really about the relationship and the problems within it that keeps the film together. I think that's
and once I went for it and once I cast Rogan and Kimberly, it was a drama first. No, I knew I was making a genre film, obviously, but it was like we never acted towards the comedy, we never acted towards the horror. We always acted towards the drama of the relationship and trying to make, within the absurdity, trying to make sort of an honest relationship and a realistic, believable couple and situations so that you can, immerse yourself and imagine it happening to you theoretically.
Hopefully only to a point. John, I really appreciate the chance to chat with you. The film's a lot of fun. It's a wild trip and horrifying, all at the same time mixed together. I really appreciate it. Have a great day, and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Anytime. Have a great day.
Don't worry, like you never